Good afternoon, you beautiful creatures. It's your boy Seth Garu Baxter with Maker's Bar, where we're creating 1 million leaders today for tomorrow. We have a special guest, as always, our special guest. He is known as the entrepreneur of LA, or you can also call him, if you consider LA a jungle, as some of us do from the Southern California area, he is Tarzan of LA. But not, and not only Tarzan of LA and entrepreneur of LA, multifaceted, multi-layered, intelligent discussions and conversations that I've had with this cat. And I'm truly excited to to have him speak and invest in his time with the audience here to let you know how deep this brother goes with his entrepreneurial side of things. Please help me welcome Roman Combs. Roman, thank you so much for being here with us today. How are you?
Thank you, man. I appreciate the invite. I was thinking about an introduction, something like an actual Tarzan movie where he's, but, you know,
But
I'm
that would
from
have
South
worked also.
Central LA. Yeah, I'm from South Central LA, so we don't really do none of that. But I'm from South Central LA, Crenshaw District.
So we don't do any of that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've actually done some of my Tarzan moves on the dance floor, but while I'm skating. So if
Oh,
you want to see some Tarzan, yeah, I know how to skate. I could do some of that. Yeah, I'm very
So
grateful to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
absolutely. It's really our pleasure. I must say, in Maker's Bar and creating this 1 million leaders that we're looking to do, you are an example. You exemplify one of those leaders who is somewhat self-created. I'm sure we'll get into some of your inspirations and things that have inspired you, but definitely as an entrepreneur and multi-layered business owner and runner, I am fascinated by some of the things that you and I have shared that I'm looking forward to us delving into here today. And then hopefully we can get a little more into the Tarzan side of things. How's that?
Yeah, it's a long story, but I'm down.
So Roman, tell us about your origin story. Where were you born and raised, and give us a little insight into your origin, what from an early age up until this point, if you can talk about your pathway here.
Okay. So my mother, her side of the family is originally from Ladera Heights in LA, and my father is from Compton. I was born in Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then probably like at the age of 1, 2, or 3, even we moved to South Central LA in Lamert Park in like the 2000s. So I grew up in Lamert Park. I was raised in Lamert Park. Um, and that was just like my foundation for the meaning of life. What life had to offer me. It was all found in Lamert Park in the 2000s, and then I kind of moved around the city a bit. So I moved to the east side. I experienced living on Figueroa 58th. I experienced living in Moreno Valley, Riverside. But that was all after Lamert Park. So that's kind of where I started.
And
Dorsey
your
High
early
School,
Dorsey High School.
View Park, Audubon. You know.
Well, your earliest experience in entrepreneurship. Take us down some of that journey. You and I have shared it, but if you wouldn't mind
Mm.
sharing it with our audience.
Okay, so my earliest experience, I never really give it the validation that it deserves, but I was getting paid from different community members for having good grades, and really from the church that I was going to, which is actually here in Inglewood. Um, the church I was going to, they would the church members would give me money for my good grades, and after collecting so much money, I would give it to my grandma, because my grandma at the time was teaching me about saving. My grandma told me that I was going to be a millionaire, and so I would look up to her on how to become a millionaire. She said, "You want to become a millionaire, you got to save." So all the money that I made from elementary school, for probably like maybe 3, 4 years, I would give to her and I would save. And that money that was saved up, would be the down payment on our first apartment in Lamert Park, actually. So I would say that that was my origin story for entrepreneurship. And one day I went to ask my grandma, like, hey, I think I know what I want to spend my money on. I probably had a couple $1,000s saved up. And she was like, we use that for the first and last month rent for the apartment that you guys are in right now. I wasn't even, I was probably in first grade when I found that out. So that taught me that I had a sense of like authority as far as like financially, what can and cannot be done. And then gave me a sense of independence and pride about how I was moving at the time, which I was moving to save money, so it gave me a more sense of pride about it. And then it's just it honestly it came into a responsibility that felt like a burden, but that responsibility is what shaped me to be who I am today, because that same responsibility is what drove me to say, okay, my mom is struggling, she can't make every end meet, and I got a lot of ends as a young man in South Central LA. I got a lot of things that I want to accomplish and I want to get done, even from just having new shoes. Like, I want new shoes. I deserve new shoes. I want new shoes, period. I want new clothes, all that. So that was my first encounter of entrepreneurship at a level that was just like, okay, you know how to do A, B, C, and D, go do it. And I did it. And I from a very young age, I just started to be independent. I was my first hustle in elementary school. I was selling 25-cent packs of gum. I open up the gum, take one out, sell it for a quarter. I'm selling 5 gum sticks for a quarter. That's $1.25 for 35 cents. They still sell it for 35 cents. The number ain't changed on the label. It's still 35 cents for 5 sticks of gum. That was my first hustle, and I just took that and ran with it.
No, you and I were talking. You also were a hustler in high school, and you were selling candies. And one of your
Yep.
first experiences as an entrepreneur to manage people. Give our audience a little insight to that.
Yeah, so shout out to Georgia High School. That's where I really set my legacy. Even today, they still talk about it. I made over 60,000 one year selling chips, candy, soda, Kool-Aid gummy bears, Kool-Aid airheads, you name it. I made it, I sold it. And that was my legacy. And I came to this moment where I would sit down, like how I'm sitting down in front of you, and people would just come to me, what you got today? What you got today? What you got today? And I said, how can I expand? Because like if I was over here, they'd be doing the same thing. Like if I was over here, they'd be doing the same thing. No matter where I'm at, they coming to me. So I said, all right, you know what? What you got today? Oh, I got this for you. We'll be on the lookout for so and so because they with me. So if you need something, they in that area. And I expanded by giving supplies to my friends who were also on my football team. And I'll be like, yo, I'm making money. If you want to make some money, like I pay you $40, $50 a day if you could sell everything. And that was my first experience of managing people and making sure that like they made something that was good enough for them to sacrifice their lunch and nutrition. And I took that and just duplicated it. And Dorsey High School is a big school. They had at the time they had the magnet part opened up, which was in construction for some time. But when I was going there, the magnet side had opened up. So it was like a new part of the school, which is, a couple thousand square foot. So you got an extra at least 4,000 kids, just in the magnet building. So I was like, you go to the magnet side, you go to the regular side, you go over here, you go over there, and we all just gonna meet back up at the end of the day. And I was collecting on a bad day, $300 on a bad day, just being
And
in
this is in
school.
high school.
This is
Yeah.
high school. On a bad day, $300. On a good day, 800, 1100, 1200. You know,
Yeah.
1200
So
in
tell
high school.
so you had this instilled in you from a very early age, or would you say you just felt it? It just was already born inside you. Which one was it for you? because and maybe you can get into your grandmother a little bit here too, where
Yeah.
some of how her firsts and so forth as well.
Yeah, so she told me that I was going to be a millionaire, and I believed her. And I think she planted a seed and she helped it grow. Her telling me I was going to be a millionaire gave me something to live up to. So when I was hanging around my friends, if they wasn't talking about being millionaires, I knew that they wasn't on a on the same journey that I was trying to be on. And so I would just identify, like, okay, this is the group that I want to hang with. So I found myself mostly hanging with nerds who were just very smart. Even though they didn't talk about being a millionaire, they were just very smart. So that was how it affected my social circle growing up. But then um, just on a regular day, it was hard for me to sit still because it was like, I know that I'm going to be a millionaire, and millionaires don't sit still doing nothing. You know, if I told you when you was 10 years old that you was gonna be a millionaire, you would have started moving different. You know what I'm saying? You would have been like, nah, I
You
can't hang with you. I can't do certain things because I know I'm gonna be a millionaire one day, and that's gonna reflect on what I'm doing now. So I just kind of carried that mindset that I was gonna be a millionaire. So I didn't do drugs, I didn't smoke weed, I didn't do cigarettes. You know what I'm saying? I treated people with respect. Like I that was all out of inspiration from what my grandma had instilled in me. And I just kind of carried that and allowed it to shape my character for becoming this entrepreneur that could just make moves nobody could predict or, foresee coming.
Mhm. What was your first business after you did the candy selling in high school?
Oh, okay. My first business was consulting. I consulted for a manufacturing company in Santa Monica. It was a manufacturing company that had been in business for probably like 2 years, and they just rebranded, relocated, got a new office, had a budget over $1 million to conduct business. It was owned by a white man, and I was hired to do something within another company, and because he had an office within that same building, that's how we met. So one day he met me and was like, "I saw you was doing great work with so and so. Um, do you think you could help me out with this situation? Like, I just need to package these things, and it's just time consuming. And for me as a business owner, I just don't have the time. I'm out, making connections and doing this. And I'm like, yeah, like, how much you paying? He was like, to start, bro, I paid $20 an hour. This was in 2016. $20 an hour just getting out of high school. Yeah, for sure. Easy. So I took the job and I engineered a whole new way of creating products for the company. And that came out of creating products for my own company. When I was making Kool-Aid gummy bears, it was just me. So I had to figure out, how does Roman Combs, this one person, make 100 bags of Kool-Aid gummy bears in 2 hours? What's the best way to do that? You can't just pour the Kool-Aid, pour the gummy bears, package it up. Like, you gotta have a system. So I created systems in school, which eventually led me to creating systems for his company, which, I saw my first 6 figures that year.
In your first year of employment there, consulting, I
Mm-hmm.
mean.
Mm-hmm. 6 figures. I was making 6 figures at 19 years old in Santa Monica.
And then after you were there for that first year, take us through your journey into the next phase of your business development.
So from there, um, it took a drastic turn. Um, I had the money, I had the career, I just didn't have this other missing component, which was the spiritual side of it. And once like became in tune with that spiritual side, that was when the transformation happened. Transformation that I'm talking about changed everything, everything. Like what I knew about money, what I knew about people, like it just totally flipped my world upside down in a good way. Um, so just to give you like a little bit of backstory, I found myself 6 figures in the bank account, completely just unhappy, unjoyful, unfulfilled. That's the best way I could explain it. I was just unfulfilled with my life. I knew what I was doing. I loved what I was doing, but I wasn't fulfilled. I just felt very empty on the inside. And so, they say that the richest people be committing suicide. It's a real thing, and I understand why. You put all this work, all this time to making the money, but you just don't have a sense of joy. You don't have a sense of community. You're not really focused on people. You just focused on money, and it gets very lonely. It gets very, very, very lonely doing that. So to make a long story short, I experienced that and I said, okay, God, if you're real, what am I supposed to be doing here? Because I feel like I found what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm 19 years old making 6 figures. Like, who's doing that out of high school from South Central LA? Nobody. I don't know nobody unless you got like an NFL career or something. I don't know nobody that was making 6 figures on a legal level, just doing
Right out of
manufacturing.
high school, no less. Right out of high
Exactly.
school, no less.
Right out of high school, I was putting people on jobs. I was putting people on jobs. I was traveling all the United States on my own dollar. Right now, if you got into my car, it's a full gas tank every time. Every time, that's how you know I was balling. Every single day, full gas tank. So just little details like that. Um, so I'm like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing financially, but it's just not making sense for me. I feel like I'm living life and my soul is just dragging on the floor. Like my body is here, but my soul is just dust. God, what's going on? So that's when God really showed me what was up. Um, and he was like, Roman, you thought you knew, but you don't know nothing. I'm about to change your life. So I started um, adapting to these different mindsets that God was directing me to adapt to, which Dr. Miles Monroe, as I spoke on before, gave me the mindset of leadership. So if you go on my social media page, you see me leading groups of people from different countries, from different backgrounds, from different languages, um, different settings. Like I am a leader in my community. There's no doubt about it. In fact, I was recognized by the mayor of LA. The mayor of LA, Karen Bass, made me a diplomat for the African American community. And the city of LA sent me to Japan, fully paid trip. And I did consulting in Japan. All of my Japanese relationships right now come from that journey. But the point I'm trying to make is God taught me the value of people, which was something I didn't really have back then. So
Interesting. Interesting.
yeah. After learning that, it transformed everything, everything.
What was that lesson? The value of people. What was that lesson for you?
It comes from Matthew's. The scripture says that the greatest one in the kingdom of heaven is the one who serves. And I committed to that. I committed to that scripture front to back. I committed my life to being a servant, like on every single level. I have some stories about me washing people's feet physically. People who I didn't know who was homeless, people that you would never touch. I washed their feet physically to just show up in this level of commitment to God on how serious I was about his business. Like, God, I made 1 million, I made 100,000, and I was ready to commit suicide. Life is not about money. Show me what life is about. Life is about being a servant. Okay. You want me to be a servant? Boom. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm doing everything that God had gifted me to do for other people. And after I went on that journey of just being a servant, that's what set the tone for everything that I'm doing today. So God, has been blessing me portion by portion.
So
Yeah.
in that, pardon me. So in that spirituality is a big portion of the foundation of how you conduct your businesses, correct?
Yes, 100%.
So
It's all
now,
built.
forgive me, it's all what?
It's all built on scripture.
All built on scripture.
Hmm.
Now, from that, so you had, and I'll come back to the spirituality of it. So from that consultant job, how long were you there for?
I was consulting for probably about 3 years.
Mhm.
Yep, 3 years. 3 years going on 4 years. My fourth year was when I like quit completely. I left a $5,000 paycheck on the table that week.
Why
I
was
never
that?
forget it.
Why was that? Or what was that story about?
So at the time, I was like, God, you know, I don't want to do this anymore. I felt so empty inside. I was making money, but I felt completely empty. I felt guilty as well because I wasn't contributing to something that was positive for my community. And so I just was like, you know what, God, like I'll leave all of this behind right now. If you could just promise that you could just show me what I'm supposed to be doing here, like why am I here? If you could just show me why I'm here, I'll leave all of this behind. After I had said that prayer, God came to me in this vision. And in this vision, I saw this beautiful light. It was like a blue fluorescent star. Imagine seeing a real life star up close, like that big, and you see all of the beauty of it that we see that we usually we're like thousands and thousands of miles away. You see all of that right in front. I kid you not. God showed me this vision of a star, and He said, "This is what I think of you."
Oh, wow.
I was so like that blew my mind because the vision was so real that I couldn't deny that it came from God. Like I couldn't be like, no, I'm just thinking this. No, I literally had a vision where I literally heard God's voice and He said, "This is what I think of you." And I saw this blue fluorescent star. I've never seen anything more beautiful in my life. He said, "This is what I think of you." I couldn't deny that. I couldn't be like, no, God, you don't think of this. God, literally, His own voice. So after that experience, I was like, okay, God, I was on my lunch break when that happened. I'm like, God, what do you, this is what you thinking me like, what do you want me to do? I just did what was on my heart. I quit. Went to the office, was like, I can't do this no more. I'm sorry. Quit. Went to the beach. When I went to the beach, I just sat down. I was like, okay, God, like I'm here. You got me. What do I do next? I took out a notepad. I wrote down all of my sins. Everything I knew in my heart that I was doing that was wrong. And I didn't know this at the time, but I was repenting. I was repenting from everything.
Oh, that's
Was
powerful.
Yes, I was repenting from everything I can name. I'm not gonna name it, but it was at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was at least. Oh Lord, I'm not gonna even talk about the girls, bro. It was a list. Okay, it was a list. You know the yellow pads, like the
Yes.
yellow notepad. I filled it up from
Yes.
front to back. and, and that first page was just girls, bro. I filled it up and I said, okay, God, like I'm done. I'm done. I promise you, I would never, ever, ever go back and do what I was doing before. And from now on, I will live a life that you can be proud of. And I just started reading Matthews and I just started reading the Bible. I was just like trying to figure out how to change my life. The Bible says, if you seek God, you will find him. And the only thing I knew was like, okay, let me just try to read the Bible. They say the Bible is the word of God. Let me just try to read the Bible. That's when I was turned on to Matthews. I read from Exodus to Revelation, but Matthews is what really stuck out to me. So I read Matthews probably 100 times, and Matthews is what brought me here today.
So the Bible is inspirational in helping you go on through your next businesses.
Yes. Oh, 100. Just the scripture being a servant
Mhm.
has took me from helping somebody to representing somebody to representing myself to representing a global company to representing a country, like just being a servant. People have given me these titles. Given, like I like Haven Made. I started as a servant. Let me just help you for 1 year for free. I don't want nothing from you. All the
Haven Made.
businesses.
Before you go into it, tell us
Yeah,
what
yeah.
Haven Made is.
So Haven Made is a manufacturing company that was founded in Accra, Ghana, and they make bespoke luxury luggage. So backpacks, duffel bags, purses, wallets, belts, you name it. Like anything that can be created from an artesian level that is a form of luggage, they can make. And I found them at like, let's say ground 10 out of 100. And I said, you know what, you guys have the potential to go so much further than what you're doing now. Let me help you. Make a long story short, I ended up committing my service to them for 1 year for free. And out of that, like it just me helping them. Not only did it transform their life, but it also transformed my life too. And that was the best way I can explain it is philanthropy. You know, it's what philanthropists do. And I just committed myself to helping them. When I say committed myself to helping them, I used all of my resources, all of my contacts, all of my time, all of my knowledge, all of my skills to pushing them into success with nothing that I was expecting to get in return. And I just did that for 1 year on behalf of my commitment to God. And it brought me so far.
What did you do for them?
I revolutionized the company from the inside out. I taught them how to use technology. I exposed them to different systems. Um, I invested probably over 10,000, $20,000 into the business. Um, I started doing designs for them, pulling inspiration from different places, creating designs, new different looks. I did the marketing, I did the public relations, I did the contracts, I got them into retail stores. Anything that you can, name when it comes to working with a luggage company, like I pulled it off, like single handedly, um, and I did that expecting nothing in return. Now, mind you, all of the stuff that I was doing, I was also passionate about because God had given me the gift to do it. All the previous jobs that I worked before, I was doing that. The consulting, I was doing that. So it was just this time I'm consulting for people who really can't do anything for me, and it's where I found myself. I found myself given all these different titles, being put in different rooms. Meeting. I met the director of Shopify for just from that relationship, just for getting the luggage into different spaces, like it just so many different things came out of just helping someone else. And I was like, wow, I think I want to do this for the rest of my life. Here I am.
So, how long have you been with Haven?
I've been with Haven Made since 2020.
Since 2020.
Hmm.
Luxury luggage and backpacks, etc.
Hmm. Hmm.
And now that's not the only business you're involved in. You have some
Hmm.
others as well.
Hmm.
Tell us about your second business.
So I have a few different businesses that I'm involved in because again, I do consulting for I like to say like the little guys or people who really don't have the resources um, to get them to the next level. So I do consulting for a lot of small companies that need help. Um, and so I've been doing that for the past 5 years, which has allotted me to opportunities. So, for example, you found me from an art extravaganza that I've been on. Well, that art extravaganza comes from meeting an artist in Cape Coast at the Slave Castle, who he showed me like 10 different pieces of art that his brother had made and was like, can you buy some of my art? And I'm like, well, no, I can't really buy all of this art, but if I can figure something out, I'll figure out how to help you. So once I got my first retail contract, I said, you know what? The story is about Ghana right now because all of this is happening in Ghana. My family moved to Ghana. So I'm like, the story is about Ghana. How can I continue to push this narrative that Ghana is this great place? So I said, you know what? You have art. Let me put the art in the bags, sell the bags. I'll give you 7% for every sale, so that's money in your pocket. You're good. You're happy. But then we have this narrative that we're creating where when they open up the bag, they see an art piece, which is a caveat.
Oh
It's an
yeah,
Easter
yeah.
egg, and it's a legit piece of art. It's not like no bull crap somebody painted. No, this art is legit. It's really good. So they're like happy to receive it. And then they open up the scroll and a letter falls out and it's like, oh, I met Roman at Cape Coast. This is the story of me and this is what we're doing. Like here we are, support. So I did that and it didn't go how I planned for it to go. But what did happen is the 70 pieces of paintings that he gave me to put in duffel bags, I ended up putting in a gallery. And so here we are today.
Now, you have a significantly influential grandmother that you and I spoke of, Rebecca Price, in the fashion industry, and we mentioned some of that. Is fashion a part of your business entrepreneurship?
Oh, 100%, bro. I love fashion so much. They say nobody has to pay you what you love to do. And I
Mm,
love to do fashion. And in fact, all of the designs that came out of me for Haven Made were inspired from my grandmother.
mm.
Just aesthetic, prestige, something that was made sense, like visually. Um, I created some dope luggage, and I think all of that fashion, like I came from my grandmother, and so I consider myself a very beautiful designer, and that I have my grandmother to credit for that. So the success of Haven Made, was even influenced by my grandmother in one way or another. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned I happen to be privileged enough to have understood some of the story that you share with me about how significantly impactful she was to the LA area. Can you share a little bit of insight with who she was?
Yeah, so she did the first black woman led, and in fact, black fashion show period, between the 1970s and the 2000s in Ladera Heights in South LA. She was one of the first black fashion shows that was conducted in the Los Angeles community. She's in the newspapers, LA Sentinel, LA Times. Her name is Rebecca Price. And she was very heavy in fashion. She exported different suits, different dresses from Italy, Paris, you name it. She was just big in the fashion world. Everybody in downtown knows her company, Fashion Production Runways. She still has an account, even though she's passed away. She still has like vendors accounts, with the LA Fashion District. So she was very big in the fashion space and independent, as well.
Now, how does that parlay itself into the area of your business that's fashion related?
Um, so for example, I have this brand that I'm launching called Cassaba. Cassava is a plant that grows in Ghana and is used to make this popular dish called fufu. Um, Fufu is one of the names of the collection produced by Cassava, but Cassava is a brand that is on the higher end of fashion, meaning it's not like a street brand, but it's for the streets, but it's a high end street brand. Um, all of that came from my grandmother. I've made two-piece suits sold out, so completely sold out. The inspiration came from just the fashion sense of my grandmother. So she's inspired me that way. Um, And then, like I said before, doing designs, all of my fashion designs have been inspired by my grandmother. And
So a designer as well. One of your endeavors is as a
yeah,
designer as
those
well.
are skill sets. Yep. Yeah.
And
100%.
and so out of those three you mentioned, which is the one that gives you the most joy or satisfaction out of those three businesses?
Mm. I love to do fashion. I feel like if I was just focused on fashion by itself, I'd be very, very joyful. I mean, I'm already joyful when I do it, which is why I do it anyways, even though I don't have the time for it, but I make time for it because it gives me that much joy. And I find it easy to design dope stuff. I find it very easy. So I just take advantage of that. Um I don't know if that answers the question, but fashion is life.
And
You
it's
look
definitely
good.
played. It's
Yeah.
huge, especially we as the African American community. I think fashion is instrumental in how we feel about ourselves to some degree. Wouldn't you say? We,
Yeah.
in back
Everybody.
in the day, it used to be you put on a pair of filas or pumas. Those were just sneakers. But then we even had, and I read this fascinating article that spoke about dandyism, and that was a theme for the Met Gala this year as well. And it was when people of color chose to dress in a dapper style. So fashion has always been a big part of how life is. And I guess the challenge sometimes is balancing its importance relatively in how our lives go. But with fashion, do you mainly do for men or for women or both?
Um right now I would say I'm more heavy-handed as a designer who cooks up clothes. I'm heavy-handed in the men's section. Um, it's only because I'm a male, and I know
It comes
how it
easier.
feels. Yeah, I know how it feels. Um, but I get requests, I should say, all the time from different female clients or potential clients, asking, "Hey, could you do something for the females?" It's like, yeah, I can, but I need a female to do a female. So I'm open to collaboration on working with different female designers to create something that's very cassava or fufu inspired, but yeah, mostly male.
Now, if you had to say there was somebody outside of your grandmother that really gave you an example of an entrepreneur that you can name that we might recognize, who would that be? That you say,
Mhm.
okay, that's an entrepreneur, a business person. I model some of my techniques after, or I see them and they just give me some inspiration.
Okay, so I have two. The first one, his name is Dr. Lamar Price. He's an iridologist doctor, and he teaches the community about nutrition and health, clean eating, clean diet. I'm a vegan today. I've been vegan for a few years now. Um, and then the second one, it will be Nipsey Hussle. I feel like that's something that most people know or have heard of the name Nipsey Hussle. Nipsey Hussle he was a rapper, but he was a business leader, and he believed in change that he didn't see, and he spoke about it and exemplified it in the way that he conducted business. So that really influenced me growing up because he was like a few blocks away from me.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
he gave my school headphones one year. Fortunately, I didn't make it that day, but I never forget. Everybody was talking about it. He just came to the school and just brought everybody headphones. This was when I was going to View Park off of Crenshaw and Slauson, so his retail store was right next door. But he was somebody that was a big influence, I should say, on me as far as just culturally and
His
business.
impact is still felt. His impact is still felt for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
So those were the two main persons.
yeah, it was two main that time. And then I would say my last biggest influencer would be well, not even last, but another big influencer for me would be Dr. Miles Monroe, who taught me the importance of leadership. And then I would say definitely, Christ. But when I say Christ, I don't mean like this invisible person that we all don't see or feel. But I mean Christ as it's mentioned in the Bible in the book of Matthews. I know everybody has their own opinion on religion and Christianity and things like that, but Christ came to teach us a different mindset than what we currently had. That's a
Mhm.
point a lot of people miss. Christ wasn't
Elaborate. Elaborate on that, please.
Christ wasn't about like this, oh, you going to hell, you going to hell. If you don't do this, you going to hell. That's how the church represents it. But Christ himself, when you read Matthews and you give God a chance to just speak to you one on one, when you read Matthews, Christ came to change the mindsets and influence the hearts
Mhm.
of mankind. Because at the
Mhm.
time, mankind was doing things that was leading them to death and destruction. And we can experience death and destruction with or without God, period. You know what I'm saying? There's people dying every day with and without God, period. So Christ really laid out, okay, this is how you want to live your life. And it's not stuff that's too crazy, like the scripture, if you want to be the greatest, you have to be a servant of mankind. There's nobody that is considered great today that wasn't doing things that were serving to humanity in some type of way. Everybody that's considered great created something or serviced something that was very central or very needed or very relevant, very important in some type of way. They did service. So that was one of Christ's principles. If you want to be the greatest, you have to serve. So he came to change our mindsets and to revamp the way that we were thinking. He's one of my biggest influences today.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And from the literature world, what's a book that really kind of gave you some motivation or really taught you valuable lessons about being an entrepreneur or a company owner? What's a book that gave you some inspiration?
It's Matthews, man.
Matthew's in.
Matthews is one of the biggest books where I took stuff that I learned and applied it to my life daily. Being a servant. What does it look like being a servant? I don't know. Let me help this guy get a job. Even though it's nothing in it for me, let me help him get a job. That ended up creating my startup company, which was an agency, which has now been running for 2 years.
What's the
That
agency's
started.
name?
My agency's name is RGA, Romans Global Agency, where we focus on giving diasporas career pathways. I'm simply just helping people make money. Oh, what's your skill set? What do you do? Okay, let me get you a job over here. I know these people need that service. Just been doing that for the past 2 years. Um,
Do you
and
now,
then
may I want to follow up with that? So when you do that as far as employment and somewhat like a recruiter, is that one of your income streams? This or you're just doing this as a servant of people to
it's
help them?
it's it's
Is
it's
this part of the business where you
it's
get
an
a
income
percentage
stream as
once they
well.
get hired?
Yeah,
It's what?
it's an income stream as well. It's an income
Okay.
stream as well. So, just to give you a little breakdown, I do focus on giving job opportunities and career pathways to people who have moved from the United States into West Africa. Now,
Um,
because I'm in Ghana, that's my biggest influence because that's where I go, that's where I move, I meet people. So I know their needs and I know what their issues are. So it's easier for me to meet their needs or to connect their needs with opportunity. So I've been doing that. But at the end of the day, the cultural agency that I created was just a solution for people who didn't have jobs but had skills.
mhm.
And then it's also a solution for the clients because now you're getting these services where you don't have to pay these lump sums of money, but you're paying a rate that makes sense for you and is fair to you. And then it's remote, so it works on the time that you say it works. I'm available from this time to this time. Okay, we'll build your website right there in front of you from this time to this time. So it's an income stream for myself and for the creatives that I work with, but it's also, services at the same time. So I've just gotten creative on how to be a servant, but still how to maintain and just be sustainable with the practices that I do.
Now, you had to face some huge challenges, and
Oh,
I've repeated this to some of my other CEOs and entrepreneurs. Name two of the biggest challenges you had to overcome when you found that you had already started your companies and or your businesses. Two of the biggest challenges you had to face, and how did you get over them or get through them?
I'll say the
And
first big.
and also what did they teach you?
Okay, so the first big challenge, let's say, when I first started, um, I didn't have this traditional starting business capital. That was my first challenge. It was just, how do I start a company with the same capital that comes from my income, which at the time I was probably making an average $2,000 a month plus. How do I start a company with that when my rent is 1,600? You know, um, I figured it out. I saved up almost $1,000 and dedicated that money to just paying for payroll. So then I said, okay, I know I can get the social media job for sure. I know the service is in demand, and my name carries reputation when it comes to social media services. So I can land a social media job no problem. And in fact, I can land more jobs than I can work. So let me hire you. Let me start you off in an internship and at least pay you $400 a month just to do internship. I'm going to train you how to do social media management. I'm going to connect you with a social media management job. And I'm going to micromanage what you're doing to make sure that you're doing it successfully, make sure that you're carrying out my reputation, make sure you're carrying out the quality of work that's expected. And I did that for like 3 or 4 months. And I was able to produce income, not just for the intern, but also for myself as a manager. And I took that money, reinvested it back into the business, and did that for about a year. And, we celebrated our first year anniversary in October.
Of
So it was
RG
pretty
Global.
cool.
Of RG Global.
Romans Global Agency. Yep.
Mhm. And when you say global, it's because you do work internationally as far as job placement and
Yep,
assistance in that
I
way.
do. Yep. I've hired people from not just local, from an LA platform. I've hired people from LA, also hired people from Africa, specifically West Africa. I've hired people from Nigeria. I've hired people from who are transplants of Los Angeles who moved from different places within the United States. I've hired a lot of people and gave a lot of people opportunities. So it's something that works, you know.
Mhm. So 5 years from now, you see RG Global or the Haven Made goods. Which of those companies, or out of all of them, 5 years from now, what's the vision? What's the outcome?
Okay, so right now my long-term vision is self-sustainability. How do we create something for us by us where we have everything we need and we don't need to reach out for anything? What does that look like?
And who is we? Who is we?
The creative economy. Anybody that
Oh,
exists in the
interesting.
creative economy.
Mhm.
How can we in the creative economy sustain ourselves for success? What does that look like in any situation? So I've created a solution. The long term plan is a 6-story building. I call it the New Haven, which haven by definition means a place of safety, a place of refuge. The New Haven is let's think of it as like a franchise where you have this creative economy building that is developed to engage and activate the creative economy in every single kind of way but then also foster and bring opportunities to the creative economy. So it's a 6-story building. 2 floors are residential. One floor is as a laboratory. We have computers, everything that you need technologically is there. One floor is dedicated to nutrition, so it's a like a cafeteria. Different businesses that come in and activate. We have another floor that has a stage, but also acts as a place for activation for community events. So if you've ever been to Black on the Block, or if you've ever been to a farmer's market, this first floor can be activated to be a farmer's market every Sunday, Saturday, and Thursday. But then on the days that we're not a farmer's market, or we're not a Black on the Block, or we're not a thrift uh, thrift exposition, or a technology exposition, or whatever we want to activate it, we're doing programming. We have dancers come in and perform. We have musical artists come in and perform. We have technologies, technology companies come in and do panels. Like, it's a fully activated 6-story building where you can go and really activate yourself as an entrepreneur or a creative in the creative economy in Ghana. 6-story building. That's my long-term plan.
5 years from now. Now, does AI play a significant role in some of your developmental plans?
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. In
So
fact, we use.
you don't have some of the trepidation that some people do, how AI might interfere with some of your business.
Oh, oh no. AI affords me the opportunities that I can't afford to do on my own.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how much it would cost me to hire somebody just to assist me doing administration. AI is, I need help typing this. I need help sending this to this person. People use ChatGPT and that's it. ChatGPT connects to Zapier, which is an automated platform that can connect to your Gmail, your OneDrive, your text message. Like, you can have ChatGPT text somebody. You can have ChatGPT send the presentation folder to so and so right after you have ChatGPT make the presentation. Like, it's so many different ways to use AI. That's like you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not, because you got to get stuff done.
Mhm.
Period. You have to get stuff done. You don't have the money to pay somebody to help you. So what are you going to do? You're going to do it all in one day? No, you're not. So I use AI to pick up pick up that slack.
That's interesting. So you are among some of the other creative entrepreneurs that don't see AI as threatening as some of the citizenry.
Mm-mm.
And I'm just curious as to, so you see it more beneficial than detrimental.
It's a tool. It's a
Oh,
tool.
okay.
Just like a missile is a tool, you can use
Hmm.
it for
Good or
good
bad?
things and bad things. It's a
Hmm.
tool.
Hmm.
It's just how you use the tool that brings the reality that you want. But regardless, somebody's going to be using the tool. If you're not, somebody's going to be using it. They're going to be either using it against you, or you can use it for you. So you can't be scared. You gotta make it happen and adapt. Right now, the world is for people who adapt. If you're not adapting, you're being left behind.
It reminds me a great deal of this book, and I've mentioned it on my program several times, called Future Shock, and it's by
Mm,
Alvin Toffler. And what he said was, you can either keep up, you must stay abreast and keep up with all the trends that are happening in order for this economy that we're now experiencing to stay in business, to continue to prosper. You have to stay up or you'll be left behind. And that is, I see, and I'm wondering if you've seen this too with some newer business owners. There is somewhat of a competitive nature to start businesses with or without AI. And that seems to be the challenge of conversation I hear a great deal. Is AI beneficial and to be used as a tool, or is it something that's job threatening? So it's all, I'm curious when I always hear what some of the challenges that people, or the perceptions they have of AI. And I was curious how it plays a role for you. So you see the benefit definitely as a tool.
yeah, I have a project manager who is living in Ghana right now, and our next meeting we have. So my project manager, mind you, when I hire people, they usually don't have the skill sets that it takes to accomplish. So I do a lot of training, and we walk through things together. a project manager will be going through a training. Um, one of the pipelines, right? And I don't want to get into too much business detail, but this is a real time scenario on how I use AI to run my company. Um, One of the pipelines that I have is I work with city contractors and city organizations that get funding from the state or the government on a government level to revitalize businesses. So if you ever hear of, oh, they're giving out a grant to legacy business owners, or oh, they're giving out a grant to this, they're giving out a grant to that. So I work with those organizations that receive money to help businesses be sustainable. One of those initiatives is okay, the Stay in Business initiative for $10,000, right? So they'll write me a budget, $10,000 for 6 months. We're going to send you 50 clients that need help developing their websites. And that budget is going to be paid to you to help these companies start their websites, right? So what do I do? How do I take that opportunity, streamline it to where I'm creating a 5-star, 6-star, 7-star experience for the customers, while I'm also building the reputation with my original client, which is the LA city or the government that's giving me the contract, while also using delegation to manage, right? So this next meeting that I have with my project manager, we get emails. Oh, Roman, meet uh, meet Seth. He has a YouTube company and he needs a website that does A, B, C, and D. You guys meet, schedule a meeting, and you guys have 10 hours to work together. Okay, cool. I'm gonna take those 10 hours. I'm going to create a streamlined system using AI, right? So first off, I'm using AI to respond to the email, right? AI already knows what is going on. So it says, hey, thank you for this email. Seth, let me work with you and get your schedule. Here's a link to my calendar. You can schedule what time is best for you. Boom. I don't have to spend 10 minutes doing that, sending that email. AI already knows because I get 50 emails just like that already, right? So then I direct, okay, project manager, anytime I get consulting meetings on my calendar that are highlighted in green, this is where you need to come in. You do the introduction. Hi, how you doing? Welcome to Rose Global Agency. We're going to use AnyDesk. Let me set you up with AnyDesk because AnyDesk is what we use where we go on your computer and we help either finish the website that you started or we build you an entire new one right there for you. You can direct us, tell us how you want to do it. It's right there on your computer. You always have it, whatever. So we're integrating AI in the most simplest ways to accomplish a job, and it's making things more predictable, right? Because we have this consistent pattern where it's okay. We know Roman is consistent with his email responses, so we know he's consistent here. He's consistent here. How many things can we make consistent where we don't need human interaction? Consistency is the best recipe for success. Consistency is how you predict success. Without consistency, you have no predictions. You have no, forecast. You can't forecast anything if you're not consistent. So we're using AI to simply maintain consistency. Simple things like responding to
Okay.
emails, simple things. Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that, tell me the best piece of advice you want new entrepreneurs. And when I'm saying new entrepreneurs, they don't have to necessarily be young. There are entrepreneurs who are older as well. What's the best piece of advice you can give them in our closing?
If you want to be great, you have to be a servant. You have to take yourself from this place of I deserve, I'm this big person, it's about me. It's not Life is not about you. If you die today, we having your funeral and that's it. Life is moving on.
Mhm.
Life is about other people. It is. Unfortunately,
That's
it
true.
is.
True.
It is. Life is about other people. And what makes your life significant is based on honestly what you can do for other people. You
Mhm.
know, there was a sermon that I was watching where it was talking about when you have a gift, you have to condition yourself to be used. It's true. If
Very
you're a
true.
dope artist, you have to condition your lifestyle to be used because you're great. People want what you got. So whatever your talent is, let's first identify that. Identify what your talent is, because that's your purpose. That's your God-given gift. And then we're going to use your purpose to make a way. So after you identify your talent, and you figure out, okay, this is my talent. This is what I can do for people. Let me be a man of service. Let me be a woman of service, right? And don't make everything about money. Some of your best experiences, some of your best connections, and mind you, I say connections, not dollars. Some of your best
Mhm.
life is about who you know. It's not about how much you make. It's about who you know. Some of your best connections come from being a person of service without worried about the dollar. And you just commit yourself to the service. Let me give them a 5-star experience, 7-star experience, 8-star experience. Let me give them a great service. Don't worry about the money. The money's gonna come. Great service. You got the skill, the talent. Just those two things, and be consistent. You're gonna win. Period.
I really like that. On that note, Roman Combs, entrepreneur of LA, and Tarzan of LA. We didn't get to do this too much yet.
Oh,
No, I was gonna do
yeah.
it. Roman, brother, I got to thank you so much on behalf of Maker's Bar and for coming on my program. I really do appreciate your insight and sharing it with us. And you're a young business owner and entrepreneur. And what a great example you give to a number of them who are looking forward to trying to get into business, and the words of wisdom that you shared with us. So thank you for sharing that time with us today, brother.
Thank you for having me, man. I hope it
Absolutely.
can really transform somebody's life. That's all that matters.
It absolutely will. I don't know a greater way to put it than to be of service. We all want to be of service to each other in some way. As Makers Bar wants to be of service to new and up and coming leaders, as well as existing leaders, by giving them a spotlight or a platform through our Makers Bar format to
Exactly.
do that. So part of that's being of service, and you were of service today. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely. Again, good people, we had a bright light in the Los Angeles area that also has tentacles that reach globally with his company that does global work. We want to thank Roman Combs and also AKA Tarzan of LA for being here with us today. As I say before, and I say it again, the revolution that we all want is one of love. So let's create that love evolution going forward. We certainly appreciate you taking out the time to be with us on Make It. I'm with Seth Guru Baxter on Maker's Bar today. If you like the content that you're seeing, please press like, subscribe, and share, and tell others about us. Leave comments on the program. We are expanding and growing fast, and we'd love to hear back from you and what you think about us. It's a beautiful thing, good Roman. I'm looking forward to all the great things you're going to do. You take good care, my good man.
All right. You too, man.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon.
All right. Talk soon. Bye.